The bright lights of the Galactic Council chamber hurt John Miller's eyes. He sat at the human desk, much smaller than those of the other alien races. The air felt too cold. The gravity was slightly off. Everything about this place reminded humans they did not truly belong. Today marked his 10th year as Earth's ambassador. It should have been a proud day. Instead, he clutched a report in his hands that made his stomach turn. The Droxy ships had attacked 3 human colony worlds in the past month. Over 20,000 people were dead. Millions more had lost their homes. John looked up at the council members. 473 different alien species sat in rising circles around the central speaking floor. Some had tentacles. Others had multiple heads. A few were just clouds of gas inside special containers. They all shared one thing. None of them seemed to care about human problems. "The Council recognizes Earth's ambassador John Miller," said High Counselor Vexnar. His 7 eye stalks moved in different directions as he spoke. His skin shimmered with blue and green lights. John stood and walked to the center of the floor. The weight of Earth's hopes pressed on his shoulders. "Honorable council members," he began, his voice steady despite his anger. "For the 3rd time, I come seeking help. The Droxy have attacked our colony worlds without cause. They have killed thousands of innocent people. They have destroyed farms, schools, and hospitals." He held up pictures of the destruction. Images of burning buildings and lines of refugees flashed on the large screens. "We ask the Council to act according to its own laws. The Droxy attacks break at least 6 parts of the Galactic Peace Treaty. We request peacekeeping ships to protect our remaining colonies." A low murmur filled the chamber. John waited as the council members talked among themselves. He noticed Ambassador Calatur of the Navorian Confederacy watching him with all 4 of her eyes. She had a small smile on her face. Everyone knew the Navorians sold weapons to the Droxy. High Counselor Vexnar raised his main limb for quiet. "The Council has heard Earth's request. We will now vote." John's heart beat faster. This was it. After weeks of private meetings and promises from friendly species, the moment of truth had come. The vote took less than 5 minutes. The results appeared on the main screen. 472 against Earth's request, 1 in favor. Only Earth had voted for its own protection. "The Council has decided," Vexnar announced. "Humanity knew the risks when they expanded into disputed sectors. The Council cannot intervene in territorial disputes between non-founding species." Disputed sectors. John couldn't hide his shock. Those colonies were established in areas the Council itself marked as free for settlement 50 years ago. "The Droxy have presented historical claims to those regions," Vexnar replied coldly. "This matter is considered closed." John looked around the chamber. Many ambassadors avoided his eyes. A few seemed sad or embarrassed. Most didn't care at all. He gathered his notes with shaking hands. 10 years of diplomatic work. 10 years of following council rules. 10 years of humans thinking they had friends among the stars. All for nothing. That night, John sat alone in his office at the Earth Embassy. Outside his window, the lights of Centaurus Prime glittered. The alien city had once filled him with wonder. Now he saw only cold, distant beauty with no place for humans. He opened his computer and began typing. The message would go directly to the President and Joint Chiefs of Staff on Earth. It would change the course of human history. "Madam President, I regret to inform you that the Galactic Council has abandoned us. They will not help our colonies. They will not enforce their own laws when humans are the victims. After 10 years as your ambassador, I have come to a difficult conclusion." John took a deep breath and typed the words he never thought he would write. "I recommend that Earth and all human colonies formally withdraw from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. The time has come for humanity to stand alone." He sent the message. Then he looked out at the alien city one last time. This was just the beginning. 6 months had passed since Earth made its decision. The last human flag on alien soil was about to come down. Admiral Samantha Wright stood tall as the Earth flag was lowered at the embassy on Rigel IV. Her blue uniform was perfectly pressed. Her face showed no emotion. But inside, her heart was heavy. 20 years of friendship with the Rigelians ended in a single day, she said softly. Captain Frank Dias stood beside her. He was her most trusted officer and friend. His dark eyes watched the alien workers removing Earth symbols from the embassy walls. Were they ever really our friends? He asked. True friends don't abandon you when you're in danger. Samantha took the folded flag from the young officer who had lowered it. The embassy was now empty of human staff. Only she and Frank remained to complete the withdrawal. The last transport leaves in 2 hours, Frank said. All other personnel are already aboard. Samantha nodded, and the data center, wiped clean, as ordered. The aliens will find nothing of value. Outside the embassy windows, Samantha could see Rigelian security forces gathering. The once friendly aliens now watched the humans with suspicion. News of Earth's withdrawal had spread quickly through the galaxy. Many alien races were angry. Some were afraid. We should go, Frank said, checking his watch. Intelligence reports the Council is meeting right now to discuss sanctions against us. Samantha's communicator beeped. She read the message and her face hardened. Too late. The sanctions are already approved. The Council has closed all trade routes to human worlds. They're trying to starve us into coming back. Frank wasn't surprised. They need our resources. Our worlds are rich in minerals they can't find elsewhere. And they think we can't survive without their technology, Samantha added. They're wrong. The 2 officers took one last look at the embassy that had stood for 2 decades. Then they walked out, heads high, past the Rigelian guards. On the shuttle ride to their ship, they watched the blue-green planet grow smaller below them. Neither spoke. Both understood the weight of this moment. The Earth ship Determination waited in orbit. It was the last human military vessel in Council space. As their shuttle docked, Samantha received another urgent message. The Droxy have attacked another colony, she told Frank as they walked to the bridge. New Dakota. The Council did nothing to stop them. Frank's hands tightened into fists. How many dead? Unknown. Communications were cut. We've lost contact with 8,000 colonists. On Earth, President Alan Garcia addressed the United Nations. His speech was broadcast to every human settlement across 27 worlds. Today marks our final departure from the Galactic Council, the president said. His voice was firm, his eyes determined. For too long, we have been second-class citizens in a cosmic community that takes our resources but ignores our needs. They have left our people to die while demanding our loyalty. In homes and community centers, on ships and space stations, humans watched their leader. We did not choose this path. We wanted friendship among the stars. We wanted to learn and grow alongside other intelligent species, but we have learned a hard lesson. In this galaxy, you must be able to protect yourself. President Garcia's voice grew stronger. As of today, all human space is closed to Council races. All trade agreements are canceled. All scientific cooperation has ended. We will forge our own path forward. On the Determination, Samantha gave the order to enter faster than light travel. The stars stretched and blurred as the ship headed home to Earth. Do you think we're making a mistake? She asked Frank quietly, when no other crew members could hear. He looked at the tactical display, showing the vast empty space between human worlds and Council territory. No, he said simply. I think we're finally doing what we should have done years ago, standing on our own feet. As the ship accelerated toward Earth, Samantha wondered what the future would bring. Humanity was alone now in a dangerous galaxy, but perhaps, she thought, they were safer that way. 3 years had passed since the day humans closed their borders. 3 years of silence. 3 years of hard work. Deep under the Rocky Mountains, in a secret lab built into the stone, Dr. Lisa Ford stared at a glowing blue light. The light came from a small metal box on the test table. The box hummed softly. "Run the test again," she said to her team. Her voice was tired but excited. Chief Engineer Paul Bennett nodded. His fingers moved quickly over the control panel. On the large screen above them, numbers and lines appeared. The old drives could fold space at a ratio of 1 to 1,000. Paul explained as the simulation ran. That means a ship could jump 1,000 light years in a single moment. The other scientists watched closely. They had worked day and night for 3 years on this project. "And this new drive?" asked Lisa. Paul smiled. 1 to 100,000. We can reach the Andromeda Galaxy in weeks instead of centuries. A cheer went up in the lab. Lisa felt tears in her eyes. When humans had left the Council, many people feared they would fall behind in technology. The Council races had shared some of their science with humans, but kept the best secrets for themselves. Now humans were making their own path. "Think about what this means," Lisa said. "We can go beyond the reach of the Droxy, beyond the reach of the Council. We can find new worlds, new resources. New friends, maybe," added Paul. "Ones who won't abandon us." Similar breakthroughs were happening across human space. Without the rules of the Council holding them back, human scientists were free to explore new ideas. On the Mars colony, Governor Nicole Harris received a top-secret message. It was about something called Project Phoenix. She read it twice to make sure she understood. "They want to build how many ships?" she asked her assistant in shock. 500, Governor, with the new quantum drives." Nicole looked out her office window at the red Martian landscape. Workers were expanding the colony, building new domes for more people. Since leaving the Council, many humans had moved from Earth to the colonies. They wanted to help build humanity's new future in space. "Where will they get the materials for so many ships?" she asked. "That's why they're contacting you. They want to triple the size of the mining operations in the asteroid belt." Nicole thought about what this meant. Project Phoenix was clearly a military plan. Earth was preparing for something big. "Tell them Mars supports the project. We'll send as many workers and ships as they need to the asteroid belt." Meanwhile, in a small observation post hidden on an outer moon of the Tau Ceti system, Human Intelligence Officer Daniel Rivera watched the alien communication channels. What he saw made him smile. The Droxy Armada had turned on the Navorians, their former allies. 3 Navorian worlds were under attack. The Council peacekeeping forces were too few to help. "The Navorians are begging for help," reported analyst Karen White. She showed Daniel a recording of the Navorian ambassador pleading with the Council. "And what did the Council say?" Daniel asked. "They said it was a regional conflict, not worth full intervention." Daniel laughed without humor. "The exact same words they used when our colonies were attacked." Karen nodded. "It seems the Council only cares when founding races are threatened." "And how are the Zetherians doing?" Daniel asked. The Zetherians had been the loudest voice against humans in the Council. Karen pulled up new images on the screen. They showed Zetherian refugee ships fleeing their home world. The Droxy had taken over their major cities. "Their defense grid failed 2 days ago," she said. "The Council sent only 10 ships to help. It wasn't enough." Daniel watched the desperate Zetherians for a moment. "Keep monitoring all channels," he said finally. "Earth needs to know everything that happens out here." As he turned away, he wondered if the aliens had learned yet. The day humans left the Galactic Council was the day the balance of power began to shift in the galaxy. The Galactic Council was in chaos. Ambassador Daniel Rivera watched the emergency meeting from its hidden outpost near Tau Ceti. 5 years had passed since humans left the Council. 5 years that had changed everything. "Play the main chamber feed again," he told Karen White. She was his best analyst and had been with him since the beginning of their secret mission. On the large screen, aliens from many races argued with each other. Some stood and shouted. Others waved their limbs in anger. The elegant council chamber, once a place of calm discussion, now looked like a fighting pit. "The Droxy have taken 7 more systems this month alone," shouted the Zetherian representative. His fur was falling out in patches from stress. "Where are the defense fleets you promised?" High Counselor Vexnar tried to calm the crowd. "We have sent all available ships to the front lines. We must be patient." "Patient," screamed a Navorian delegate. Her 4 eyes blinked rapidly in rage. "Half my world is burning. The Droxy drop bombs on our cities daily." Daniel watched with cold satisfaction. The Navorians had once supplied weapons to the Droxy to use against human colonies. Now they were feeling the same pain. "How many council races have been attacked so far?" he asked Karen. She checked her notes. 27 confirmed. At least 5 founding races among them. The Droxy Armada grows stronger with each world they conquer. Daniel nodded, and the Council peacekeeping forces stretched too thin. Without human military support, they can't fight on so many fronts at once. This was exactly what Earth's leaders had predicted. The human fleet had once made up nearly 30% of the Council's defense forces. When humans withdrew, that gap was never filled. "Any sign they might reach out to us for help?" Daniel asked. Karen shook her head. Pride. "The founding races can't admit they made a mistake." On the screen, the council meeting dissolved into more shouting. Daniel shut it off. He had seen enough. "Send the full report to Earth," he ordered. "They need to know how bad things have become out here." Later that day on Earth, President Garcia read the report in the White House Situation Room. Military and civilian leaders sat around the large table. "So it's happening even faster than we expected," the president said. Defense Secretary Olivia Taylor pointed to a star map showing Droxy territory expanding like a red stain across council space. "The Droxy were always going to turn on the council eventually," she explained. "They used the weapons from the Navorians to attack our colonies first, because we were an easy target. Now they're strong enough to attack anyone. And the council still won't admit they need us," added Secretary of State John Miller, the former ambassador who had recommended leaving the council years ago. The president looked at the star map thoughtfully. "What about our own defenses? Are we ready if the Droxy decide to come after our worlds again?" Admiral Wright stood up. Her uniform now had many more medals than 5 years ago. "Project Phoenix is complete," she announced. 500 ships with the new quantum drives are ready. Our defense grid around all 27 colonies is operational. We can detect Droxy ships long before they reach our borders." The room was silent as everyone took in this news. Project Phoenix had cost trillions of dollars and required resources from every human world. "So we're safe," the president said finally. Admiral Wright nodded. "Safer than we've ever been. The Droxy would be foolish to attack us now." John Miller cleared his throat. "There's something else to consider, Mr. President. The suffering of innocent people in council space." The president's eyes narrowed. "The same innocent people who turned their backs on us when we needed help." "Many of them, yes," John admitted. "But there are also billions of ordinary beings caught in this war who never had any say in council decisions." The room grew quiet again. Everyone knew what John was suggesting. "You want us to help them," the president said. "After everything that happened." John nodded slowly. "Not for the council's sake. For our own. The question isn't what kind of galaxy they created. It's what kind of galaxy we want to live in now." The president looked around the table at his advisors. "I need options. What would intervention look like? What would be the cost? And what would be the message we send to the galaxy if humans suddenly reappeared?" As the meeting continued deep into the night, billions of stars shone in the sky above. Among them, countless lives hung in the balance, waiting to see what humans would decide. The alarm sounded across all Earth defense stations. A single alien ship had appeared at the edge of the solar system. It was heading straight for Earth. "Scan complete," reported the officer at Space Defense Command. "It's a council diplomatic vessel. Very small. Only one life form aboard." General Scott Harris frowned. "No alien ship had entered human space in 5 years. Any weapons?" "None that we can detect, sir." They're broadcasting on all channels, another officer called out. Message repeats in multiple languages, including English. Let's hear it, ordered the general. A deep, formal voice filled the command center. This is Grand Counselor Vexnar of the Galactic Council. I come alone and unarmed, seeking dialogue with human leaders. The fate of many worlds depends on this meeting. The general's eyebrows rose in surprise. Vexnar was the highest-ranking official in the council. For him to come personally and alone was unheard of. Contact the president, he ordered, and prepare a security team. We'll allow the ship to land at the Lunar Diplomatic Facility. 2 hours later, in the Oval Office, President Garcia met with his advisors. The alien ship was now in orbit around Earth's moon, waiting for permission to land. After all this time, why come now? The president asked. Defense Secretary Olivia Taylor was direct as always. Our intelligence confirms that the Council is losing the war against the Droxy. 7 founding races are now under attack. Their economy is in ruins. They need our help. And now they remember we exist, the president said with a bitter smile. Secretary of State John Miller, who had once sat across from Vexnar in the council chambers, spoke up. We should hear what he has to say. At minimum, we'll learn more about the situation in council space. The president nodded. Agreed. But the meeting happens on our terms, on neutral ground. The Lunar Diplomatic Facility had been built before humans left the council. It had special rooms designed for different alien biologies. It had sat empty for 5 years, but was kept ready just in case it was ever needed again. Vexinar's ship landed on the designated pad. Security cameras showed the Grand Counselor emerging alone. He looked different than John Miller remembered. His skin, once bright with blue and green lights, now seemed dim. His 7 eye stalks moved slowly, as if tired. The meeting took place in a round room with clear walls that looked out at the lunar landscape. President Garcia sat with John Miller and Admiral Wright. Across from them, Vexnar settled his large form into a specially designed chair. Thank you for agreeing to meet, the alien began. His translator device made his voice sound flat and mechanical. I come to you in the darkest hour the Council has faced in 10,000 years. The President's face remained neutral. We've been monitoring the situation. The Droxy have expanded quite successfully since we left. Vexinar's eye stalks drooped slightly at the cold response. The galaxy stands on the brink of total war. Billions of innocent lives are in danger. Entire civilizations face extinction. Just as human colonies did when we asked for your help, Admiral Wright noted. The alien skin flashed briefly with colors that indicated shame in his species. Mistakes were made. The Council failed to uphold its own principles when your people needed aid. And now you need our aid, the President said. Vexinar nodded slowly. The Council formally requests humanity's return and assistance against the Droxy threat. We offer full membership status with all the rights of a founding race. John Miller, who had once begged this same alien for help, felt a strange mix of satisfaction and pity. He waited for the President's response. Grand Counselor, President Garcia said carefully, you misunderstand our position. We didn't leave to punish the Council. We left because you were irrelevant to our survival. Vexinar's eye stalks froze in shock. Why, John Miller added, would we rejoin a failing institution? The alien looked between the human leaders, truly seeing them for the first time. What then do you propose? The President leaned forward. That depends on what humans will gain from helping, and what guarantees we have that history won't repeat itself. Outside the window, Earth hung in the black sky, beautiful and whole. Unlike many Council worlds now burning under Droxy attacks. 3 days after the meeting with Vexinar, the world learned about Project Phoenix. The President addressed all of humanity in a special broadcast. For 5 years, we have worked in secret. We have built new ships with technology beyond anything the galaxy has seen before. We have trained new soldiers and developed new weapons. We did this not to start a war, but to make sure we would never again be victims. People gathered in homes and public squares across 27 human worlds to watch. On the colony of New Eden, where the Droxy attacks had first begun years ago, the streets fell silent as everyone listened. Today, I reveal Project Phoenix to the galaxy, the president continued. A fleet of 500 ships with quantum drives that can travel faster than anything the Council or the Droxy possess. These ships will not join the Council forces. They will act independently, under human command, for human interests. On the bridge of the UES Defiance, the largest ship in the new fleet, Admiral Samantha Wright addressed her officers. The ship hung in space above Earth, its hull gleaming in the sunlight. "The mission is clear," she told them. "We will reclaim our lost colonies. We will protect human worlds. We will not seek revenge, but we will not show mercy to those who continue to attack innocent people." Captain Frank Dias stood at her side, as he had for years. "The fleet is ready, Admiral. All ships report quantum drives at full power." Admiral Wright looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, human colonists who had been abandoned to the Droxy might still be fighting to survive. She thought of the families who had lost loved ones when the Council refused to help. For generations, humanity sought to be accepted as equals in the galactic community, she said to her crew. "Today, we return to space not as supplicants, but as saviors." The fleet departed Earth orbit in a flash of blue light. The quantum drives allowed them to travel vast distances in moments. The journey to the lost colony of New Eden would have taken months with old technology. Now it took less than a day. When the human fleet arrived, they found the colony world under Droxy control. Enemy ships orbited the planet. Ground forces occupied the human cities. The colonists who had survived were forced to work for their conquerors. "Battle stations," ordered Admiral Wright. "Target Droxy ships only. Avoid damage to the surface." The Droxy were completely surprised. Their sensors barely had time to detect the human fleet before the attack began. The new human weapons cut through Droxy shields like they weren't there. "They're trying to communicate," reported Frank. "Let's hear it," said the Admiral. A harsh Droxy voice filled the bridge. "Human vessels, this world belongs to the Droxy Empire by right of conquest. Withdraw immediately or face destruction." Admiral Wright smiled coldly. "This is a human world. You are the ones who will withdraw. You have 1 hour to evacuate your forces, or we will remove them." The Droxy commander laughed. "Your pathetic species cannot threaten us. The Council could not stop our advance. What makes you think you can?" "We're not the Council," Admiral Wright replied simply, and cut the communication. The battle for New Eden took less than 6 hours. The human fleet destroyed every Droxy ship in orbit. Then special forces landed on the surface to free the colonists and drive out the invaders. On the ground, Major Peter Collins led his team through the ruins of what had once been the colony's main city. Buildings were damaged. Streets were empty. But as word spread that humans had returned, people began to emerge from hiding. An old man approached the soldiers, tears in his eyes. "We never thought we'd see Earth forces again," he said. "I'm Jason Peterson. I've led the resistance here since the occupation began. Some of us never stopped fighting, even when the Council abandoned us." Major Collins clasped the man's hand. "No one will be abandoned again. That's a promise from Earth." As the human forces secured the planet, Admiral Wright received news from other fleet sections. The colony at Tau Centauri had been liberated in under 3 hours. The Droxy, encountering human technology they couldn't understand, were retreating in confusion and fear. Project Phoenix had begun not with fire, but with hope renewed for thousands of human colonists who had thought themselves forgotten. News spread fast across the galaxy. Humans had returned to space, and they were winning battles the Council forces could not. The Droxy, who had seemed unstoppable, were now retreating from human colonies. But something unexpected happened next. Ships began appearing at the borders of human space. They were not warships. They were civilian vessels packed with frightened people, refugees from Council worlds that had fallen to the Droxy. At Border Station 12, Commander Diane Foster watched the scanner screen with concern. Over 50 alien ships waited just outside human territory. Another group just arrived, reported her second in command. Zetherians this time. Diane frowned. The Zetherians had been among the most vocal critics of humanity in the Council. Now they were begging for sanctuary. "Play their message again," she ordered. The screen showed a Zetherian female, her fur matted and dirty. "This is Transport Ship Hopeful. We carry 2,000 civilians, mostly children and elders. Our homeworld has fallen. The Droxy gave us 6 hours to evacuate before they destroyed our cities. We have nowhere else to go. Please help us." Similar messages came from Navorian ships, from Prantilian vessels, even from races whose names humans had forgotten after 5 years of isolation. All with the same plea: help us, save us, give us shelter. Commander Foster sent an urgent message to Earth. What should we do with them? In Geneva, the United Earth Parliament debated the refugee crisis. The Grand Hall was filled with representatives from all human worlds. The mood was tense. "They abandoned us in our time of need," argued Representative George Bell, pounding his fist on the podium. "When our colonies were attacked, the Zetherians call us warmongers. The Navorians sold weapons to the Droxy. Why should we help them now?" Many in the chamber nodded in agreement. The wounds were still fresh. The memories of human refugees who had died waiting for council help had not faded. But Senator Maria Evans stood to speak. She was older, with gray hair and a calm voice that carried authority. "I remember the attacks on our colonies," she said. "I lost my brother on New Eden. I know the pain we all felt when the council turned its back on us." The room grew quiet. "But we cannot become what we despised," she continued. "Compassion is humanity's greatest strength. If we turn away children and elders who face death, how are we different from those who abandoned us?" The debate lasted for hours. In the end, Senator Evans' view prevailed, but with conditions. Earth would provide humanitarian aid, but on human terms. The Council's authority would no longer be recognized. Each alien species seeking protection would need to sign a separate agreement with Earth. At Border Station 12, Commander Foster received her new orders. She opened a channel to the waiting ships. "Attention all vessels. You may enter human space under escort. Medical ships will meet you at coordinates we will provide. Each group must register and agree to human laws during your stay." As the refugee ships moved forward, Diane noticed something on the scanner. "What's that large vessel at the back?" Her officer checked the readings. It's a council diplomatic ship, Grand Counselor Vexnar's personal vessel." Diane was shocked. "He's with the refugees. Apparently his homeworld was attacked 3 days ago. The Droxy destroyed most of their major cities. On the diplomatic vessel, Vexnar watched as human ships came to guide the refugees to safety. From his window, he could see Earth ships distributing supplies and medical teams boarding vessels with sick passengers. John Miller had been sent as Earth's representative to meet with the alien leader. He found Vexnar looking thin and tired, his once bright skin now dull gray. "We had 10,000 years to build something lasting," Vexnar said quietly. "A peaceful galaxy where all species could thrive. How did it fall apart so quickly?" John looked at the human ships helping the very aliens who had once rejected them. "And how did you accomplish so much in just 5 years?" Vexnar asked. "Your technology, your ships, your unity, they're beyond anything we thought possible." "Necessity," John replied simply, "and the freedom to fail on our own terms." As more refugee ships arrived each day, humans faced a choice: remain isolated and safe, or reach out to a galaxy that had once turned its back on them. The decision they made would reshape the stars themselves. 10 years had passed since humanity left the Galactic Council. 10 years that had changed the universe forever. The old council still existed, but as a shadow of what it once was. Many of its proud founding races now lived under human protection. Others had joined the new alliance that Earth had created, the Interstellar Cooperative. Captain Eric Johnson stood on the observation deck of the UES Endeavour. Below him, workers in spacesuits moved like tiny stars against the blackness, building the massive space station called New Horizon. It would serve as the headquarters for the cooperative. "Quite a view," remarked his first officer, Susan Carter, as she joined him at the window. "It's more than that," Eric said. "It's a monument to human stubbornness." Susan smiled. Some would call it human compassion. The last decade had not been easy. After rescuing their own colonies, humans had faced a difficult choice: retreat back into isolation or help rebuild a better galaxy. They had chosen the harder path. The Droxy threat had not ended quickly. It took 3 years of hard fighting before the Droxy were pushed back to their home system. The war had cost lives on all sides. But in the end, the Droxy sued for peace, contained by a blockade of human ships they could not defeat. "The Zetherian ambassador is ready for his tour," Susan reminded Eric. "He's waiting in Docking Bay 3. Eric nodded. "I'll be there in a minute." After the refugees came, humans had begun to form new relationships with alien species, not based on the old council rules, but on mutual respect and clear agreements. The Zetherians, once vocal critics of humanity, were now among their strongest allies. When Eric arrived at the docking bay, Ambassador Krill waited with his assistants. His fur, once a status symbol among his kind, was now kept short in the human fashion. "Captain Johnson," Krill greeted him warmly. "My people are excited to see the new trading center. Is it true that all species will have equal access?" "Absolutely," Eric confirmed. "That's the founding principle of the cooperative. Equal rights, equal responsibilities." As they toured the half-built station, Eric explained how it would work. Any world that joins the cooperative agrees to 3 basic rules: defend other members if they're attacked, share scientific breakthroughs that benefit all, and treat all sentient beings with dignity. Simple rules, Krill noted, not like the 1,000 laws of the old council. "Sometimes simple is better," Eric replied. Later that day, Eric received a message from Earth. Grand Counselor Vexnar, who now represented the remains of the old council, had died peacefully in his sleep. Though no longer in power, he had spent his final years working to document the mistakes of the past so they would not be repeated. In his personal log that night, Eric wrote, "The day humans left the Galactic Council was the day the universe learned that unity without respect is no unity at all. It was the day the old order ended, and the day a better future began." The next morning, Eric was called to the bridge. A strange ship had appeared near the station. It was unlike any design they had seen before. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Eric Johnson of the Earth Ship Endeavour. Please identify yourself." The screen lit up with the image of a being unlike any human had seen before. It had golden skin and 4 arms. "Greetings, humans," the alien said through a translation device. "I am Navigator Shrell of the Calendary Exploration Fleet. We come from beyond what you call the Perseus Arm. We have observed your recent conflicts and your efforts to build peace afterward." Eric stood straighter. "What brings you to our space, Navigator Shrell?" The alien made a gesture that might have been a smile. "We have been watching many races for centuries, waiting for one that might be ready for what we offer. We believe that time has come." "And what do you offer?" Eric asked. "Knowledge, technology, and a warning about threats that lie beyond your current exploration range." As the conversation continued, Eric realized that humanity's journey was only beginning. Their struggle with the Council and the Droxy had been just the first step. The universe was bigger, stranger, and more wonderful than anyone had imagined. And humans, who had once been dismissed as an insignificant species, would help lead the way forward.